Hello and welcome to all the men and women of the West. I'm Joe. Today we unveil the first of our 1,000 sub celebration videos. It kind of feels proper to start with Tolkien, as it was really a series of Tolkien videos that took us down the path towards more and more lore videos and fantasy stuff like we originally wanted for the channel. Here's to 1,000 subs. This is honestly a video I really have wanted to put out there for a while, so without further ado, let's just plunge on in and start this celebration. Now, this may not be the longest of reviews, as this is a really good adaptation, but I'm thinking of mixing it with a Lord of the Rings audiobook review, and thus there will be two audiobooks reviewed. That way, this doesn't just turn into a, well, thank you, now I'm off to go cater to the other fan bases. No. This is going to be a much more proper video duology. That said, for my thoughts on this adaptation, the first few discs capture everything. No, I have nothing to complain about. They're just so good. Quite frankly, they convey the warmth and the beauty of Tolkien's Middle-earth universe, at least those first few Hobbit chapters, so well. Bombadil is included. It's such a great part. Then we get to the Prancing Pony, where we're introduced to, honestly, the best adapted character in this entire radio drama, Robert Stevens' Aragorn. This is just the perfect Aragorn. He truly sounds as though he's 6'6", towering, deep-voiced. Theoden, these two are the best characters in this thing in terms of adaptations. Either one could probably voice Conan, just as they do Aragorn and Theoden. This is just so perfect. I can't imagine listening to this on the radio in the 80s. It must have just been such an experience. But anyways, I listened to it on a lot of car rides. I've been listening to this drama for a few weeks now. That said, Peter Woodthorpe was really great as Gollum. And if I'm being honest, I actually prefer every character adapted over that from Peter Jackson's. Nothing against Jackson's for the most part. It's just here, it just seemed to stick to the novel purely. That said, I do have a few complaints for later in the radio drama, but early on, let's be honest, Gandalf is just perfect. Aragorn, he could sing a bird off a tree. I'm just being honest. Although in the early chapters, when we get to Beren and Luthien and whatnot, the song exchange between Aragorn and Samwise, the problem is we don't actually get the song. We just get the Beren and Luthien story explained. I have huge complaints about that. I actually want him to sing. Train him. Take the time. Why didn't he sing? And I know some people might say, well, maybe he wasn't trained. I don't care. Get him singing. Or get someone else to sing and sound like him. So I've got a huge complaint there. Yeah, I'm whiny. I just really like the songs of Tolkien. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings out to basically be a musical, if I'm being honest. That said, there are a few characters who are as magical as Ian Holmes' Frodo. I understand he came back to reprise Bilbo, and he was great as an elderly Bilbo. Don't get me wrong. But his Frodo is so perfect. How did he? Honestly, this is Frodo. Truly noble, kind, and yet going mad towards the end due to the ring. It's just perfect. You can't get better than Ian Holm as Frodo. I'm honestly hoping the audiobook proves me wrong, though. Merry is, of course, great, played by Richard O'Gallaghan. You have John McAndrew playing Pippin. They're just perfect. Just being honest. You have Boromir, who's great. You have Peter Vaughan, who plays a haunting Denethor. Wow. Éomer and Éowyn are pretty good. Ellen Jenkins. That said, Treebeard, weirdly, I didn't find him too remarkable in this version of this adaptation. So I actually do have that complaint. Elrond was great. Like, wow, was just perfect. And of course, Theoden was just the best. That said, now we come to my complaints about this adaptation. As far as complaints go, like I said, I didn't like that there was no song sung by Aragorn. That really grinds my gears. I don't have any complaints for stuff near the end, except for one major detail. In the novel, we get the Riders of Theoden poem, and then we get the charge into the Pelennor fields, and we get the battle. But the thing is, in this adaptation, we get, instead of Theoden shouting this great poem and call to battle for his men, a really bad song. Honestly, one of the worst songs I ever heard in my entire life. I didn't know music could be so atrocious. Made me just want to rip my ears off. How could you remove the most iconic part of the Rohirrim? Like, this is Theoden's great crowning moment. He shouts out to all the riders of Rohan to ride now to Gondor. But instead we get this really, really bad song, which just, The thing is, there are two major themes in Tolkien's work. There's humility, as exemplified with Frodo, and then there's valor, like northern courage, as exemplified in Theoden. But the northern courage is torn out, so that you don't get the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. They basically gloss over it as much as possible by using this really, really bad song in place of the actual dialogue during a great deal of the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. Well, what if they ended up ripping out how the ring is destroyed and just say, well, the ring was destroyed, whoop-de-doo. It's that level of horror that I felt as I listened to them just saying basically something that sounds like nails on the chalkboard. So I honestly hated what they did with my favorite part of the novel. It's no secret, I've said it many times before. In a lot of ways, now Theoden is perfect in the movie adaptation. I do love the actor, but in terms of his personality and his courage, his vigor, and even his voice, now while I think Jack May is perfect, I'm going to be honest, Theoden reminds me of my dad. To listen to this scene completely butcher his moment of glory just really turned me off to this thing. It just made me despise that disc and want to scratch it and then tear it and chuck it out the window. I just hated what they did. That being said, the rest of this adaptation is perfect. I mean, when Frodo gets possessive of the ring in Mordor, oh my gosh, it's perfect. This is a great adaptation, make no mistake, but that Theoden thing is my problem. So now I'm going to get to the rating. 0 is just irredeemable, 4 is perfection. I'm going to say this is 2.25, and I'm only going to add the quarter because it is a good adaptation, but I'm tearing off almost 2 points because of the Theoden thing, and that song was just so bad. It ended up reducing a few relatives of mine to tears to listen to it. It was just so wretched. That said, this is an above average adaptation, and Aragorn and Theoden's actors really, and even Ian Holm, those three really elevate it to such an incredible level. I did enjoy this quite a bit. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button, as though you were Eowyn taking down the Witch King of Angmar.